Halo, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Dodi Dahnus. I want to present our papers with title Marbles and Smartphone on Physics Laboratory and Investigation for Finding Coefficient of Restitution. This paper have four authors, namely Dodi Dahnus, Putut Marwoto, Ratno Sri Iswari, and Prastyo Listiaji. Introduction. Problem. The collision between two interacting objects is one of the basic topics studied in physics at the secondary and undergraduate levels. The topic of conservation of linear momentum, coupled with the conservation of kinetic energy in perfectly elastic versus inelastic collisions, are difficult concepts for many students. When colliding, both objects can lose or maintain their energy. Usually, we use the law of conservation of momentum and conservation of mechanical energy to explain this collision process. But the collision can also be explained by the coefficient of restitution. Solution. Currently, smartphones are very close to human life, especially school-age teenagers. Besides having a lot of negative effect for students, for example, spending time playing games or chatting in the class, the use of this smartphone also has great benefit, especially for learning. Smartphones play an especially important role in supporting physics experiment. A smartphone is a tool that is suitable for physics experiment activities because it is equipped with a number of sensors. Most physics experiments can be done using a smartphone. In addition, this device provides a major contribution in increasing interest, motivation, learning outcome, and student critical thinking. Aims of this paper. In this study, we determine the coefficient of restitution and mechanical energy using a smartphone equipped with a sound sensor and to analyze the relationship between the coefficient of restitution and the loss of mechanical energy. Experimental setup. Experimental setup to determine the coefficient of restitution of marble is not to use simple equipment. The tool needed include marbles and smartphone. The illustration of experiment can be seen in the figure. In this study, we used an Android smartphone Oppo F5 type, while the application that we use is PyPoc version 113. It can be downloaded for free at Play Store of App Store. Result is discussion. This figure, left figure, show experimental data of marbles drop to the floor and the bounce in 5 times. Time and height on the figure A and the percentage of remaining energy on the figure B. Recorded through the sound sensor and on the smartphone simultaneously. Then, based on this data, will be analyzed to determine the coefficient of restitution and mechanical energy of marbles, and the relationship between the coefficient of restitution and the loss of mechanical energy. Data obtained from a smartphone is then analyzed to determine the coefficient of marbles restitution. The result of the analysis can be seen in the table. Based on the table, we found an average value of the coefficient of restitution of 0.9260. The value of coefficient of restitution found indicate that collision that occurred was a partially inelastic collision. And the next, table 2 is the mechanical energy of marbles during the collision. The mechanical of energy of marbles is analyzed based on the height of the marble during the collision recorded by the smartphone. Based on table 2, we find that the mechanical energy of the marbles is disappearing every collision with the floor, which affect the height of the marbles after the collision. Periodic loss of mechanical energy causes the height of the marble to be reduced. Total mechanical energy does indeed remain constant when the ball is in the air. However, mechanical energy is lost during its bounce. Some of the energy changes to other form. One of the changes we can observe are the changes in sound shape. To make it easier to see the decrease in height of each marbles and call it and analyze the loss of mechanical energy, we will present in figure beside. Based on figure 3, it is observed that the amount of mechanical energy of marbles decreases every time a collision occurs and can also be seen in table 3. The negative sign in table 3 shows that the amount of mechanical energy of marble is lost during a collision. The coefficient of restitution of marble is 0.9260 in the range of 0 and 1, meaning the collision is partially inelastic. In partially inelastic collision, the kinetic energy of object decreases constantly after the collision because some energy is dissipated during the collision process, and we shown in figure 3. Conclusion, we have demonstrated the measurement of the coefficient of restitution and mechanical energy for marbles using a smartphone sensor. The height of the marbles that bounce off the floor before and after the collision is measured using the sound sensor found in the software. Data were analyzed to determine the coefficient of restitution and the amount of mechanical energy lost during the collision. Value coefficient of restitution obtained from height can be found constantly and in accordance with mechanical energy loss of marbles. It can be concluded that it is possible to determine the coefficient of restitution and the amount of mechanical energy of object by using a smartphone as an experiment tool. We have also analyzed the mechanical energy stored in marbles during collision as well as the constant loss of mechanical energy during collision. We hope that this method will be useful for physics teachers to demonstrate bounce object to determine the coefficient of restitution and mechanical energy. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.